Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. I am really a little bit late this month for the October anticipated read, so I apologize for that. And I could give you a lot of excuses, but ultimately I'm just now getting to it because the research for me was extensive. I've seen some people talk about October anticipated reads, and the feeling on their part was that there weren't a lot of them to talk about, which was surprising to me when I started researching. I felt like I had to stop researching in order to make this video a length that is, agreeable to all of you to watch. I don't know, maybe it's just everybody's taste is different, obviously. And so some of these are similar. Some of these I did see other people talking about. It's always interesting to me how our similar tastes form as booktubers, and then sometimes how, those are just not books that would interest me. And I'm sure some of these are not books that would interest everybody either. So I'm going to give you a variety. Hopefully, this will be something that you're looking forward to, and we'll kind of see where we go from there. My biggest challenge for October is going to be not to buy all of these books. Maybe not all of them, because there's a couple I wouldn't necessarily buy, but there's a lot. I'm telling you, there's a lot. All right, the one that everybody is talking about for real is Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. This comes out October 3rd. I am sort of hit and miss with Ashley Winstead. I did read in my dreams I hold a knife. It was okay for me. I didn't finish The Last Housewife. I'm not saying that I won't go back to it, but at that time, it was not really working for me. But this one is of interest to me because it's set in Louisiana. It's a Southern Gothic horror mystery, and it's about a serial killer, which if you've been on my channel as a subscriber for any length of time, you know that is a kind of trope that I really appreciate. A preacher's daughter and a maybe not so what do I want just a bad kid, I guess, team up to try to figure out what is happening and how they can stop this. It sounds like something I would pick up. I don't know that I would buy it though, since Ashley Winstead has been a little hit and miss for me. Another book that's coming out on October 3rd is A Haunting on the Hill, which you might think to yourself, that sounds a lot like The Haunting at Hill House, and it indeed does. It is a bit of a sequel, if you will, I guess. Some people have said sequel, some people have said just sort of a reworking of The Haunting of Hill House. And this author, Elizabeth Hand, received permission from Shirley Jackson's estate to publish this. I do love A Haunting at Hill House in its movie adaptation form on Netflix. I wasn't as big of a fan of the novel. So will I read this one? I'm going to wait for the buzz to see how people are feeling about it. One that I have already pre-ordered with a birthday gift card that was sent to me is My Darling Girl by Jennifer McMahon. I've read a few of Jennifer McMahon's. There's one on my list to read in October. And this one is another one of my favorite tropes in horror, which is demon possession. I know, I'll tell you about it in another video, but wow, that is always like oh my gosh, let me try this out. So Jennifer McMahon is pretty solid for me. It's not a like I must have everyone and they're all 5 stars. I think I definitely really like her style and her topics and her different, kinds of explorations. This woman character in this book is contacted by her alcoholic, kind of abusive mother who says that she has cancer and she only has weeks left to live. And it is set in Christmas time, which is kind of interesting that it's kind of horror coming out in October. So she does go to care for her mother and spend the last few weeks of her life with her. And then when she gets there, it seems like something is off. And so that's where there is a hint of, is this woman or maybe perhaps this entire family possessed, and what is there to do about that? My Darling Girl, Jennifer McMahon. The Intern by Michelle Campbell. I need to read my handwriting with glasses on because it's terrible. This one was a book of the month selection for September, and I chose not to get it. But the more I look at it, I am possibly interested in reading it. Again, October 3rd, Harvard law student intern is sort of enamored with this judge, and they become kind of they start sort of a mentor relationship with each of them, but the judge doesn't realize that this girl has a secret that can destroy her, and so there is kind of a cat and mouse situation that begins, and the intern is, kind of plotting, I think, against this particular woman, and she's trying to figure out, is she a killer? Can she be a mentor to me at the same time? Like, I think it's very kind of confusing, but I think it sounds like a little bit of a John Grisham situation as a novel. So, I mean, those at one time were books that I read. More about that in a minute. Jesmyn Ward has a new book coming out called Let Us Descend. Okay, here's the scoop on Jesmyn Ward. She lives in my state. I've seen her speak. She's signed a couple of my books. I've read nothing. And it's not because they're not good, and it's not because I don't want to. I've read none of them. However, I collect them all because I don't know. I think she's a good writer. I've heard good things. I want to read them. I don't know. But this one is a magical realism reimagining of American slavery. Okay. That in and of itself makes me want to prioritize this one over some of the others. There's one written about or in the setting of Hurricane Katrina, which I couldn't get to for a long time, but I probably could now. Anyway, Annis, is that what I wrote down? I can't even read my writing. A Black girl who sold into the South, and she marches with spirits. And it says this is a descent into the hell of slavery with a tale of rebirth and redemption. I can't imagine that won't be good. Another one on October 3rd is nonfiction by Patrick Stewart. It is his memoir, and it's called Making It So. If you're familiar with Patrick Stewart, you know how perfect that is for a title for his memoir. So Patrick Stewart tells the story of his life growing up in Yorkshire, England. He was a Shakespearean actor for a number of years, and then later became more famous for his role as Captain Picard in one of the Star Trek series. And then also, as I have to look this up because I don't watch these movies, Professor Xavier. I think that's the X-Men series. I guess Xavier, X-Men. I would love to take a look at this. I don't know that I'll buy it. This may be a library borrow for me, but I really do like Patrick Stewart. I could listen to him talk all the time. So it's possible for me that it would be an audio book over a physical copy. The next one is a book that Lisa brought forward to me. It is also nonfiction, and she was really kind of excited about this. We're going to watch to see how these reviews play out because the initial 3 ratings on Goodreads are very mixed, but this is The Final Witness by Paul Landis. A lot of people are saying this is just adding to the conspiracy theory, and a lot of people are saying this has some new information, but this is about a Secret Service member of JFK's team who was there during the assassination in Dallas, Texas. And he says that he has some new evidence that was never brought forward because he was never asked to testify before the Warren Commission. So his story has really essentially, at least publicly, not been told, is my understanding. Is there a sort of a shining extra bullet or some shining extra evidence? I guess he thinks that there is. So our obsession with JFK would suggest that we would want to read this. But again, purchase or not, I don't know. We're going to kind of watch the buzz about that. On October 1st, a book called These Still Black Waters, book 1 of a series, comes out. This is by Christina McDonald. If my handwriting is even remotely correct, this is actually an Amazon Prime first read. So if you're a Prime member, they give you an option to get some ebooks at the beginning of the month, and you have the whole month to choose if you're going to get them or not. And this was one that I did choose. So I do have this on Kindle. A woman is a victim of a home invasion, and so she takes her daughter as a result of this and moves to Black Lake, which was their summer home when she was a child. And so she's trying to escape to a safer place after the home invasion. And it turns out a body is found in the lake, and chaos, I'm sure, ensues. But it sounds really good. The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok comes out October 10th. I have not read anything by this author. I have taken a look at a couple of hers before and just never committed to them. This one, though, is an atmospheric, suspenseful mystery, is what it's being billed as. I'm going to kind of read my notes because I don't want to get this wrong. So Jasmine ends up in New York with no money, no job. She's leaving her controlling husband, and she's in search of a daughter who was taken from her in China at birth. The child was taken from her as a result of the one-child policy. And then you also have Rebecca Whitney, who lives in a beautiful home. Her husband is an architect and makes all kinds of money, and their life is this idyllic, gorgeous place to be with a child that they adopted. These two women are then bound by that child, and I'm assuming that Jasmine finds Rebecca. Emily Smith wrote a book called You Always Come Back, which also comes out on October 10th. The story premise of this is that July, that's her name, July's sister was killed by a serial killer. And at that time, July gives evidence that leads people to believe and convict her father, believe that her father committed the crime, and he goes to prison. Fast forward, July's brother tries to commit suicide, and she returns home only to discover that there may be some new evidence that she didn't have at that time, and that possibly her father had not been the serial killer. There's a lot of thrillers and mysteries this month for sure. This one sounds really intriguing. Hold My Girl by Charlene Carr comes out on October 10th. Two women, two eggs, perhaps not implanted into the woman from whom the eggs came. Does that make sense? Two eggs, two women, they apparently get switched. And so these two women deal with racial identity issues, loss, betrayal, grief, love. That sounds like a must read for me. And the question in the synopsis of this is, what makes a mother? Which I think is a lovely question to ask in this conundrum of a novel. This one is another one I really want to read. It's called Family Meal by Brian Washington. This is a brand new author to me. Three men. Cam's boyfriend dies. So that's the two men that begin this story. So he moves back home and he reunites with his friend TJ, who owns a bakery. And so they've been estranged for some time. And I'm assuming that TJ sort of supports his recovery and his grief, and they reconnect. And it just sounds like a really great book. And it had really good buzz already from the folks that have read it, an advanced copy. Midnight at the Christmas Bookshop is a Jenny Colgan sequel to The Christmas Bookshop, which was a book that I read a few years ago. This one, Midnight at the Christmas Bookshop, follows the same people who own the bookshop, but there is a film being made. And the bookshop is one of the sort of featured parts of this movie. They're rompy, cozy, cheesy, cozy mysteries, but again, they're kind of fun, and I'll probably look at that one too. October 17th, John Grisham's sequel to The Firm is released. I will tell you that I did love The Firm in the first moments that it was released. I read it. I remembered it. I read several John Grishams there for a while, and then I just kind of grew weary of them. However, the sequel to The Firm does kind of interest me, so I might take a look at that, but I don't know that I would buy it. Leave the Lights On comes out on October 17th, and I may have told you that other woman's husband who had the house and it was beautiful and she got the child from the girl who was from China, that he was an architect, but I don't know now because I'm looking at this and I wrote down that this guy was an architect, so there's that. But Maine, Cape Morgan, Maine, this idyllic, beautiful beach town. They have everything that you could ever want. And she somehow is creating an artist retreat out of an abandoned asylum. That sounds kind of interesting, and there must be a reason why that's put in the synopsis. But also, her husband has another entire family, and I think she knows about it. So it is a dual perspective, I think. So the story of the husband and the wife, perhaps, in this, and it sounds good. I don't know if I will take a look at that or not. But again, that's Leave the Lights on October 17th by Liv Anderson. 10 Things That Never Happened by Alexis Hall comes out on October 17th. I did not finish reading the book that I read, White and Royal Blue, that I had mistakenly watched the adaptation before I read the book. There's a reason I didn't finish it, but it's not that I'm sure it wasn't good. So this one, though, is exciting to me. 10 Things That Never Happened. Sam Becker is a bed and bath kind of retailer. So he believes that the other people who work in the store are completely ridiculous idiots, and he hates the owner of the store, whose name is Jonathan. Jonathan orders Sam to go to London, and somehow he falls and hits his head, and he maybe accidentally implies that he has memory loss and might be faking amnesia. I don't know what's going to happen with this, if this is kind of a enemies to love trope, which I've told you before I'm not a big fan of, but I did love the nuances and the sort of campy, funny banter of Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I don't know. I'm putting it out there because I know a lot of people love Alexis Hall and a lot of people love that other book, and this one sounds fun. Hello from Editing Lori. When Editing Lori comes in, something has happened. Well, when I uploaded the beginning of this, it was before I edited, it was 55 minutes long. So I'm going to move this into 2 parts. Stay tuned for part 2 after this one is over. It should be coming out maybe the day after or so, but you'll see it. Sorry, all the books, too many books, too little time.